Welcome. What an incredible morning. Today, I'm going to talk about kind of like the history of the evolution revolution that's happening around the world today. Technology is changing so fast. I've been in this field for a good 40 years, and I'm completely blown away just in the last couple of years of the dramatic changes that have taken place. Let's go back in time in the early 80s. I was a young kid in my late 20s, early 30s, and I got involved in the PC revolution right at the very beginning. I was working for the Miami Beach Police, and we had a Xerox 820. And basically, if you don't know that, imagine we had a machine with only 16K of memory, and then we had floppy disks that had 64K of memory on the floppy disks. And the disks were about this size by that, almost like 10 by 10. And we did some amazing things with that computer. DBase, which was a programming language, a database management program, came out at that time. And I wrote various programs like crime analysis, analyze crime on Miami Beach. This was during the time of President Carter accepting the Cuban refugees, the Mario refugees. And Castro, I must admit, he was pretty smart. He emptied a lot of his prisons and sent them over to America. So consequently, crime in Miami Beach skyrocketed. I mean, skyrocketed. And so we wrote a program to analyze all the crime in Miami Beach. We also developed at the time the very first visual identification program. Basically, we developed a program where if a person got busted, we would not only have their fingerprints, but we could say this guy was 6'2", he had a tattoo, on his right shoulder, so on and so forth. We would capture those kind of characteristics, and so then at a crime scene, they could ask the witnesses, what kind of physical identification can you tell? Because back then, most of the gang members had certain tattoos on certain part of their fingers to designate what gang they belonged to. We did everything from a pawn shop program, back then. There was a lot of theft going on, especially because there's the huge disparity between the rich and poor. So we wrote a program, and it became a law in Miami Beach that any item that was pawned to the pawn shop had to be recorded with the police department. So basically, if someone tried to pawn, and then the police realized that a couple of days earlier, yeah, this same item was stolen from the person, they had a match. So anyway, as I was saying, that's all. That was only done with 16K of memory, and then 64K for the storage. At the same time, my business partner, John Slowski, we had a company called Visual Pioneers, and we wrote the very first visual real estate database I don't know if it was the world, but as far as we knew, we were the only ones at that time. So we could do a search. I'm looking for a house, let's say like in Newport Beach, 3 bedrooms, 4 baths. It would do a search, and then to bring up all the houses, and then it took you on a tour of each one of those houses. we won awards, at trade shows, but unfortunately, the real estate industry was extremely narrow in their thinking. We go, oh no, we can never do that. We take all our clients in our car, and we try to tell them that uh, this is going to be the wave of the future. You don't want to waste your time nor your client's time. We can guarantee you in 10 years, this is going to be the common, one of the only ways to sell houses by having customers find their houses and then be able to go and look at them, so they don't waste your time, nor do they waste their time. Consequently, today that's completely normal. Another thing that John Slowski and I developed were virtual towns. Basically, imagine in the early 90s, you could walk down Front Street in Lahaina and be able to go into art galleries and art studios and be able to do a virtual walkthrough. We thought that virtual towns at some point, the virtual real estate would be more expensive than what the current landholder is. Mind you, in Lahaina, it was extremely expensive. Even back then, I think it was like almost $10,000 a month for rent, for lease. Anyway, what we didn't know was that a big conglomerate, Amazon came around, and so all those ideas of small entities, doing business and be able to showcase, their products became totally monopolized and dominated by Amazon. So I'm not sure how much of the world's commerce is directed by Amazon. Well, I can guarantee you it's a huge, 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 huge number. So when the internet, got started, it was kind of like sweet and real innocent. There wasn't much, flare of anger, the flaming going on. Gradually over the years, it got much more sophisticated. I remember even when Facebook came out, for me, it was really a total blessing. There are friends I haven't communicated in 40, 50 years, and I found them on Facebook from all around the world. And this was like a good 10, 12 years ago. And there was a sense of friendship, of seeing your friends' lives, that you haven't seen in such a long time. So there was really a spirit of harmony going on. Since then, to be honest, I'm hardly ever on Facebook. I wrote a book on Pandora's box, and basically this Pandora's box was the technology of social media, of how it is in the initial stages. It was written to have humanity be able to communicate and be in harmony with one another. Eventually, money and capitalism came along, and so slowly, it's like I know Facebook and other social media companies, they would hire psychology students, out of Stanford, the cream of the crop, and they developed, ways to manipulate and to be able to cause a person to become totally addicted to their product. So as you know, right now, you can see well, most of the world is walking down the street with their cell phones in their hand and messaging one another and doing this and that, and we can hardly wait, to receive that ever so important message. And you go to restaurants and you see entire families with their cell phones in hands, not talking to one another, but sending messages to some unknown person somewhere else. And scientists know that these devices are extremely addicting. They know the neurochemistry probably more than anyone else in this world. And these guys are getting paid big bucks for it. I mean, big bucks. And as a result, our happiness is dependent upon that object. So I say that there's one extra layer that is placed upon us for us to not discover our true nature, which is kind of unfortunate. And then in the last just about 2 years, AI has come out, and I how do I say that? I have some I like it in one way, and in another way I do not like it at all. When we have a technology that could replace 3/4 of the world's workforce with artificial intelligence. Now, let me get you, when we say artificial intelligence, that's what it is. Personally, I don't think there's too much wisdom in this world today. How many times have you heard anyone even talk about wisdom anymore? Basically, in our society, we have a system, a governance system where one hand can't talk to the other hand. We can't get a speaker of the house. We argue and we bitch and we moan and we point fingers, and we can never get anything done. We soon have people that are going to become a trillionaire. And in order you can spend a trillionaire, I think you can spend like $100,000 a year for over 34,000 years, and you still would have more money left over. I basically, I don't want to bitch and moan, but I'm just saying that I in the last 7 years, I've written 80 books on the thread of life, of love that ties us all together. So I've written about like themes like conscious politics, conscious economics, the land of milk and honey. You are your own a drugstore. I talked about homelessness. The list can go on and on and on. And there's a central theme, even in my last book, The Secret of the Golden Flower. And people may scoff and laugh. Oh gosh, that sounds like what kind of book is that? But it's a common sense book that was written by the Taoists thousands of years ago. And he was kind of like the gist of the story. For thousands of years, man has always directed his senses externally. He never stops for a moment and directs his senses inwardly. People laugh all the time. I say there's a precious jewel that exists inside of you. And there is a precious jewel that exists inside of you. The greatest drugstore exists inside of you. The greatest drugs exist inside of you. And this drug is the drug of harmony, of love. patience, tolerance. It's like the secrets of the universe are contained inside of you. And yet, I say all the time, we are texting on the freeway of life. We moan and we complain about the indigenous people, and they take care that they know that they're custodians of this land. And yet, as Westerners, we are consumers of this land. We're basically, sawing the branch that we're sitting on, and we're totally content with it, totally oblivious, totally impartial to it. Well, I'm going to die someday, so who cares? Because we've lost our sense of simplicity, of nature, of being alive, of totally cherishing the fact that same breath that we take is the same breath the universe takes. It's one and the same. We have lost the wonders, the miraculous beauty of being alive. And now we have AI technology, which is coming in like gangbusters. I mean, I have never seen so much rapid change in 2 years than ever before. And we have people whose vision is to tie together, man's minds, man with these intellectual, artificial intelligence to make us more aware. And the way I look at it, by having some people, develop this technology, humans, where basically, I don't even know at this point we could call ourselves humans, because basically human means divine mind. Man means mind. We have not discovered our divinity inside of us. We have the capability to be in constant communion, to be in constant oneness with the source of all life. And yet, for some reason, we're oblivious to it. Here it is, even with our medical establishment. I wrote a book on conscious advertising, and I went into the drug industry, the pharmaceutical industry. And when we all watch TV and we see these lovely commercials, oh, this drug will do wonders, and they have this person, in a nice, intimate environment, with their loved one, and this and that, and they're drinking sparkling champagne, and they make it seem so beautiful. And in the background, it says, well, the side effects could be a stroke, it can be type 2 diabetes, it could even cause death. And they say it in such a sweet voice that we don't even get into it. And yet, most of the drugs today have severe side effects. And we accept that because that's the medical establishment. And yet, as a nation, we are probably one of the sickest nations in this world, not only physically, but mentally. Stress is totally out of control. And yet, there are practical ways. I don't know how many books I've written on that the jewel exists inside of you. Maybe what I'm trying to say is just wake up. Every day, I see, oh, okay, I see these things that are happening in this world, and also at the same time, I see there's so much hope in this world, so much hope. When I came back from India 50 years ago, I was almost considered a communist, because I was into yoga. This was in Newport Beach, and it was I thought outside the box. I lived my life outside of the box. And today, yoga is everywhere. And even the concept of preventative medicine. My brother and I, we had that when we were 18 years old. Granted, you can never rest on your laurels. We're always learning and growing. I've had major lessons that I had to learn for myself when it comes to my own body. But yet we have to become looking forward to change, and change for the better, and most of all, change ourselves. We don't want a society. Here's a good point. There's a lot of people that want to go to Mars and habitat Mars. Well, I was kind of thinking about that. Go to Mars, okay. And then the way I look at it, we have such a hard time on this planet of getting along with each other. We have not discovered the thread that ties us all together. We have not conquered our own minds. They say, this is according to the Upanishads, an ancient Indian scripture, to conquer the mind is one of the most difficult things to do in the universe. So here we are. We want to send a small group as colonists to go to Mars, and they haven't mastered their own mind. They don't even know the power of their own mind. And we're going to send them to a foreign place in space that's never been habited before, as far as we know it. And we think in those kind of surroundings that they can be able to handle it mentally and physically, especially mentally. If you have not done training in conquering the mind and being able to be in a state where your mind is your friend, it's your best friend, not your enemy. If you haven't faced your darkest shadows that exist inside you and made them friends, I can guarantee you on Mars that they'll come out in full storm. No doubt about that. That's the nature of the mind. The East has been talking about this for thousands of years. Imagine it's only until the 1980s did scientists start beginning to look into the science of happiness. Before that, the psychology field was all about the ill effects of the mind, this neurosis, this and that. But we never thought about positive emotions, how to increase them: happiness, contentment, confidence, patience, tolerance, love, so on and so forth. About 20 years ago at Harvard University, one of the biggest courses was a course on unhappiness. People clamored for it. People want happiness. People, unfortunately, this world around you is not designed to make you happy. We think that the more possessions you have, the harder you work, the more happier you will work. And this is all because from almost day zero, we've been trained for our senses to go out externally. This is unfortunately the nature of us right now. By continually looking outside for happiness, everything in this universe comes and goes. Everything changes. You come and you go. The universe comes and the universe goes. Nothing is constant. Everything is in a constant flux of change. And yet behind that, there's a power that is keeping the entire universe alive, that's keeping you alive. And that same power exists inside of you. And so there are so many scriptures and so many doctrines, talking about we need to withdraw our physical senses and be able to draw those senses inward. We have our senses. We have the five senses, and we have five internal senses. And so I imagine I write this all the time, that we should live in the center of the hurricane. And yet the world at large is living where we are living in the winds of the mind, the hurricane strength of the minds. We get blown one way out of the other, to and fro. For one moment we're happiness, and then next state of moment we're in total agony. We can't comprehend that this life. We're dissatisfied with life. No matter what we have, we are like ghosts, drinking a whiskey and cannot get enough. Because to be honest, the material world will never provide that satisfaction. I call it kind of like the video game of life. That this is a video game, and we need to go through various levels. We're new kids on the block. To be honest, we are new kids on the block, and and as new kids, we're kind of reaching a turning point with our technology and our advancements. Where are we going? If we can't even get along, if we have wars continuing all the way around the world, and we have such conflicts, and we have governments that don't know how to govern for the people and have compassion for the people, and they fight among themselves and can't get anything done, and have no cares or concerns for humanity. Ultimately, we let the genie out of the bottle, 50 years ago. And unfortunately, there's so many thousands of those genies called nuclear bombs. That's always, it's kind of like we have a knife over our head, and we can't sleep well at night because we can't get along with each other. And yet we have this incredible, spacecraft. We have the Webb, telescope that's pointing out, and every day, we should cry in the sense of awe of this universe, and yet we are just spinning our wheels in life. We are not looking at the wonders, the glorious of this world, of this universe. We should wake up each morning and we should be so ecstatic that we're alive. When we go to school, every kid, would not want to get out of school, but yet we don't teach in a manner that is conducive for that. Now, Johnny, please turn to page 43 and read that paragraph. I was kind of fed up in school. I couldn't see the point. And years later, even though the idea of doing research was so out of my norm, back then, researching, the thread that ties us all together. And 50 years later, when I wake up in the morning, wow, I get to meditate. I get to feel that connection of being alive. And I get to learn more about this thread that ties us all together, all these various fields. Honestly, I feel like I'm a kid in a candy store. And so I guess I really don't have too much more to say. that I hope that someday humanity will listen to all these messages coming from all around the world. People are saying, wake up. We need to be in harmony with each other. We need to be in harmony with the earth. We need to be in harmony with the universe. The universe will never give you any secrets unless you're at the same level as it. And that is total humbleness, compassion, patience, love. And how it's set up. So I hope you got something out of it, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to mock it, that's fine. It's fine with me. But that's it. All right. Well, have a great day.